Welcome to the Freight Agent Insider Podcast, hosted by Levi Van Pay.
Let's go. All right. We're in. Hello, everybody. Glad to have you back. Welcome to another episode of Freight Agent Insider. If you are as cold as I am, well, you're not, because if you were, you'd be in Wisconsin, and I'd be hanging out with you right now. So I know you're not in Wisconsin, freezing. I was gonna wear my Snuggie, and then I thought, Levi, you're too tough for that. Don't do that. So then I put on a cutoff with like the sleeves cut off, and then I just thought I was being a bit ridiculous. So I didn't do it. This show is unofficially sponsored by Zevia. Unofficially, meaning they give me no money. I just drink the hell out of these things. They're delicious. Zero fake sweeteners, zero sugar, zero fake colors. Are you kidding me? Let's get healthy in 2026. How about that? Sponsor me, Zevia. All right, before we get started, if you could all go subscribe to Freight Agent Insider on YouTube, Spotify, and TikTok. This really helps with the outreach. Smash the bell icon for auto alerts to new episodes every Monday, 9 a.m. CST. That's not EST, it's CST. If you have any questions for our agents or any of our guests, you can ask them live. Just go to freightagentinsider.com, click the page, talk to us live, record your question. I'll get it. We'll ask it on the show. Let's get some more interaction there. If you want to be an agent yourself and you don't have experience and you don't know where to start, we got you covered. Go to freightagentinsider.com and you can start our Freight Agent Bootcamp. It's put together with all the latest and greatest tips and tricks. All of our show guests get a 25% discount with code INSIDER. All right, let's do this. So this is going to be a fun one, as it typically is a fun one. And the reason is it's a small world. It's a really, really small world. The guests that we have today, I went to high school with them, and I didn't, rekindle our loving relationship because we were just buddies. Like, I haven't talked to this dude in years, and we just kind of like magically found our way back to each other via Freight on LinkedIn. So it's really cool to reconnect. I'd like to introduce everybody to Jacob Backus. Jacob, how's it going today, man?
Brother, it's a beautiful day here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I'm not as cold as you, so I'm
Well, you know my pain. Like, we went to high school together. You came from the same spot, right? Like,
that's right. And I don't know why you put yourself through that, through that pain again and again, brother. I understand that the family's there and you got a big heart and we
yeah,
love about you, but man, if your toes aren't cold, you better go find that Snuggie that you were talking about.
my toes are freezing right now. Freezing. Yeah, Wisconsin is like this, I don't know, a black hole that just sucks us back into it. And I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing here either, man. But like I was telling you before we kick this thing off, I mean, Tennessee or North Carolina is on the future docket. My brokerage, Select Transport, they're in Charlotte, which is an equally awesome place, very close to you in Chattanooga. It's crazy because this was probably 3-4 years ago. Time is flying, but I was so close to buying a house in Chattanooga. Got to the table, and my buddy who did like foundational work down there, he called me. He's like, Levi, check this place out, and like the foundation, it's a brand new home, but the foundation sucks, and it's in a FEMA level 1 flood zone. You probably shouldn't buy this. And none of this was disclosed. And then I backed out, and otherwise I would be there right now with you, dude.
Man, it would be cool to have you as a neighbor. Come on by.
Would you bake me, like, I don't know, pie like every other week, just like
Just
a
cookies.
nice neighbor? Just
Or
cookies.
big cookies. Big cookie peeps.
Back in high school, Jacob Backus was considered like the stud of all studs. Everybody loved this guy. He's got great hair.
I'm
And
somehow keeping it somehow.
and here we are now. So I mean, without going down memory lane too much, man, it is just cool to reconnect with you and talk some freight. Um, Love to hear about how you found your way into the industry. How long have you been in it? How'd you get to where you are now?
Yeah, brother. Happy to be here. Happy to connect and talk all things freight. It is a small world, and I urge everybody to remember that as they're going through life and navigating the waters. You never know who you might run back into. So give it your all and be your best self always. I'd say that just to start off. But yeah, freight, man, freight is a it's got all different kinds of faces and sides to it. I edged my way in through some experience when I was in the Army with just managing routes, helping truckers that were, moving classified objects, and then found my way
Nice.
at sea, of all places, helping them out on their back end, working with truckers, scheduling, inventory, was shown the ropes from the bottom level and the back house type of feel. And when I was not enjoying that so much, backbreaking, I decided to take a break. And Amazon had some opportunities for me at that time, but I decided to reach out to my network and see what my people could
Yeah.
bring to me and tell me what I might be not seeing or what I didn't know. Because at the end of the day, we're just people and we can't know everything, right? So I was lucky enough to connect with who's now a great friend of mine. He brought me in at his company on his team and taught me everything that I know about freight,
It's great.
led me down some great paths. It's been a great leader and mentor. And over the past, we're going almost 5 years now as a brokered, built a great team, been, doing the managing people and bringing on customers and all that great stuff. So, I mean, it's been a wonderful ride, and I love freight, and I probably will never leave until I am lucky enough to hopefully retire.
Do you think we'll actually get there? I mean, we're in the millennial class. I mean, is retirement is that on the table yet?
Well, I wouldn't bank it off of how our grandparents retired, but I know that we're smart gentlemen, and we've got a good head on our shoulders, so I think that we can do it. We're gonna
Yeah,
do.
I think so too. If all else fails, I'm just moving to Florida to sell conchas on the beach.
I was thinking Costa Rica and open up like a produce stand. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go. That or move to Arizona and open up another leather shop. There's only a million of those, so like that's
Never fail.
always.
Never.
So, Jake, tell me, man. I guess let me back up a little bit. The obvious premise of this episode today is you're a W 2 freight broker. Typically, we're talking with a lot of 1099 freight agents here. So we'll compare and contrast a little bit. The differences, the pluses, the minuses, if there is any. We'll cover a bunch of it because there is no wrong way to do this. Like you said, like this gave you a real in the industry and the money is real. Whether you're an agent or whether you're 1099, it's just different strokes for different folks, I guess. I know a lot of W2 people that have massive books of business and they have no desire to be an agent because they're super happy with their compensation and they're super happy with their security and their benefits are a big part of it that you're not going to see on the 1099 side as an agent. So I guess my first question to you, JB, is what surprised you the most about the day to day of being a W 2 freight broker?
What surprised me the most is, and I didn't know this in the beginning, but after talking to a lot of colleagues who went agent and learning what their experience is, my biggest surprise is how much how much more effort and time goes into our side of the business in terms of management.
Interesting.
As an agent, you get what I consider full autonomy, and that's a beautiful thing as long as you know what you're doing in all aspects. On our side, there's a lot of hands that are at play. There's a lot of levels and there's a lot of teams that you have to coordinate with in order to make the thing work, to make the cog and the machine go, and customers are relying on that. So on our side, what surprised me the most is how much our success relies on team effectiveness.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, it's something that in the days of myself onboarding W-2 reps, um, it's not always 100% shot. Like, I know a lot of reps that'll move because they see the gold bars, right? Like, agents can make, I should say, a lot of money, and there's maybe a little bit more cap to that on the W-2 side. And they're very surprised when they jump into this and they realize, "Holy crap, I'm on my own now." Meaning that team environment is completely gone, but you are cradle to grave, probably in a lot of aspects. And every brokerage is a little bit differently, maybe you're not fully cradle to grave, blah, blah, blah. Um, but it's very different. And even if you do succeed on all of those fronts, there's a lot of agents that I know that just genuinely miss that team environment where like I get calls from my agents all the time and they're just like, I've got nothing to report. I'm just bored. You can only do so much within your four walls before you just need that person to person contact. Unless, of course, you're Cody Godfrey, and after slinging freight, you're just going to the golf course and you're content with life. Shout out Cody.
Shout out Cody, love that.
He's down in your neck of the woods too, isn't he?
Yeah, I actually had the pleasure of working with him for a little while. He's a great guy.
Small world.
Yeah.
Just ridiculous. One of my first guests that I had on this show, another shout out, Anique Lesage. It was funny because I met her on TikTok of all places. And it turned out we were way closer than either of us had realized. And then I come to find out her LLC was Small World Ventures. And I'm like, you are a perfect representation of that because it genuinely is a small world, especially in freight. But wow, that's crazy that you already knew Cody.
Wow, I just talked to him a couple weeks ago, actually. He's doing wonderful, and he's, like you said, he's doing his thing, and when he gets bored, that man knows how to swing a club.
I got to get down there, man. There's too many of you down there. From there's Matt, John Rogers, Cody, you. I mean,
Yeah,
just a
man.
ton of people.
It's like somehow becoming the freight mecca of the East Coast.
It really is. Malcolm, I'm blanking on his last name. The guy who runs another podcast. I'm blanking too hard. Yeah, he's down there.
Shout out Malcolm. Love that guy.
Did did you
He's
work with him too?
yeah, actually. He was one of the guys who I started working with in the very beginning.
All world. I love freight. All right, buddy, let's keep this train rolling. This question I prepared is I guess we'll see how you answer this one, but how do you think about the risk reward trade-off between guaranteed support versus higher potential earnings? Just to kind of piggyback off of my last statement there.
Well, risk and reward there. If you're on the W-2 side, you might have a little bit more of a buying power, which for those who don't know could mean uh, making it a little bit easier for you to get in certain doors with certain shippers, which would look like losing a little bit of money just so you can learn and understand how their operations go. And then later down the line, find a way to better align with them so you can actually turn that business into a profitable one for yourself and your team. And then on the other side, that risk is 100% on you. You don't have that buying power unless you're taking it out of your own wallet, which a lot of people do. And, kudos to those individuals. And that takes a very strong willed person to make those risks. And sometimes that's what it takes. But that's a major risk, that financial burden on that agent side. So it can be something to really consider and think about.
Do you think that there's any, how should I word this? I guess like when the market slows down, like one thing that freight agents have going for them is they're their own boss, or you can't fire yourself, right? Like they're going to be fine as long as the freight is flowing from their customers versus a lot of W-2 brokerages. And God forbid, I'm not saying this is going to happen to you, JB, or anything like that, but I see a lot of those W-2 people get axed. Like, as soon as the market slows down, the bottom line has to be maintained, and they're the first to go, along with the recruiters, of course. We're always the first to go. Um, do you feel that, like, sense of security is real, or do you feel like that's just kind of something we tell ourselves? Because a lot of people, they won't jump into the agent side because they feel like there is no security there, but I always, in the back of my mind, feel the opposite way of, like, is security real on the other side?
You know, that's a really great point. Um, that's something that I think any leader on the W-2 side thinks about consistently and often. I know I have. In terms of security on our side, on the W-2 side, I think it all comes down to who you're working with, who your company is, who your president is, what your C-suite's, outlook on the company, future, their people. Culture is everything, and that comes from the top down. And like you said earlier, Levi, like every brokerage is a little bit different. Everybody's got their layouts a little bit different. They operate a little bit differently. So in the same aspect, those owners and those individuals who run those companies, they're going to treat their people in a certain way. So I think it all comes down to who you're working with and who you're working for to determine on if you are safe or not.
That's
Uh,
right.
the freight does slow down. It is, sometimes it's seasonal. At the end of the day, we want to build a book that can never slow down.
That's right.
I think that's the whole point is we
Yeah.
want to be busy 365. But as you said, it sometimes that doesn't happen. Um, and on the other side, on the agent side, every agent I've ever talked to is like they have the most confidence about them, and it's because they feel the most safe, and it's because they're their own boss. If you want to go be your own boss, and you know for sure that you can make that happen and make it work for you, why not?
Yeah. The easiest way into this industry for, I mean, there's a lot of people that ask me this, like, how do I become a broker? How do I become an agent? And it's always the same with me. Like, the easiest route is, Jacob, doing exactly what you did. Like, become a W-2 broker because you're going to have all of your expenses taken care of. You got a salary coming in, you're building a book. And something that I've never seen anybody say before is this: if you are looking to enter the industry, check if the company that you're looking to onboard with as a W-2 freight broker is publicly traded or not. Because if they're publicly traded, the bottom line is the most important thing. Their profit is the most important thing, which means if there's a downturn in the market, they will cut you and they won't think twice about it because the people at the top, it's a C-suite. They're the safe ones, not you. So always look for those smaller, whether it's a carrier and they have a small brokerage arm. Another factor in that is, do they have non-solicits? Do they have non-competes? A non-solicit, I understand, right? Like, if they're paying you and your job is to grow their company, that's what they're paying you for. I understand that. The non-compete thing, and there's a lot of three-letter uh, companies out there. We won't say which ones. They they will hit you with everything. They will hit you with a non-compete, a non-solicit. You'll never work in this industry again. And if you want to be an Uber driver, you won't even be able to do that. So you got to be very careful about that stuff. This is my tangent of the entry into this industry and doing it safely, to, if one day, Jacob, like you said, kind of comparing and contrasting W-2 versus agent, um, don't tie yourself to the W-2 side if one day you decide you want to be an agent, because you could just be starting over completely. My next question for you, with all of that said, JB, is, if you were advising somebody who was brand new to freight, what would you say to them? Would you say become a W-2 broker, or would you say just dive in head first and become an agent?
That's a really great question, and I hope a lot of people see this because I think it's really important, like you said, to understand the difference as to how companies are run, like that privately traded versus publicly traded. Very important knowledge to know, which is not something everybody understands or looks at. I would start there for sure. And then understand who you are. You got to take stock of yourself. You got to understand if you've been never been in sales a day in your life and you couldn't sell water to a whale even though he gulps it every day, what are you gonna do in freight or even in a sales role, right? But if you got that grind and that grit about you to where every day you wake up and you're excited to get after it, sales might be for you. And especially if you're a people person and you like to network like you and I do and find out that we know a handful of or a few handfuls of people. Uh,
Yep.
so those are really important aspects to consider before you even think about diving into freight. Another thing I would say is to just avoid non-competes altogether. You know, I've got a really great colleague who's been in this industry since the late 80s, and he's been a strong advocate for abolishing non-competes across the board. And he won't stop talking about it. And I think that's really important in our space as to be a leader is to find change and adaptability so that we can continue to grow in this world and in this market. Because at the end of the day, this whole industry runs because people are making it run,
Yeah.
right? At every level. I mean, and it's really important to understand that. Another thing is that if you're looking to the future and you're a type of person who's like, what's my 5-year outlook look like or 10-year outlook look like? That's a really great place to start. If you think that
It's
you
a
want
good
to go
point.
self someday, you want to try and avoid that non-solicit. But if you can't avoid the non-solicit, I would say approach companies, W2 side, in a way where you're selling yourself as somebody who's eager to learn. I wouldn't oversell and tell them that you're gonna make them millions of dollars when you've never even done the thing, but to have a great place to go to that's not gonna hold you back on growing yourself and your future later down the line,
Yeah.
avoiding that non-solicit, if you can, would be a great asset to you as a person in the future.
That was really well said, JB. Yeah, and it kind of makes me I'll give another quick shout out to HD Ships and Matt Dahl, who are expanding their company in a W2 brokerage arm out in Chattanooga. And I was talking with Matt about that the other day, and I thought something that was really, really innovative that they're doing with that is allowing their W2s as they grow to transition into agents. Um, I think that is the next phase of this whole thing because I think the companies that are operating as these W2 brokerages having these heavy-handed non-competes, heavy-handed non-solicits. We've all figured out your game, buddies. We understand that we are expendable. You will grow that book. In fact, you probably have some other person after your broker onboards that customer and they do all the work. There's another person that they are getting in close with that customer just in case they need to get rid of you. Once you start making too much money, that customer is not going to transition with you. We understand how this all works now. So I believe what Matt is doing and what HD Ships is doing is very, very innovative. So I'll give him that shout out. I think that's great. Um, JB, what factors, going back to you, what factors made you choose W2 over initially just diving in and becoming an agent?
For me, it was as simple as ignorance. I didn't even understand that that was an option when I approached the industry. Like I said, I wasn't necessarily searching to go be a freight broker. I had a friend who's been doing this stuff for a long time, and he was like, "I'll come teach, come over here, and I'll teach you everything you need to know." And that's what I dove into. And then later, as the years went on, and I learned more. Personally, I've always been a individual who yearns for learning and knowledge, and it's a never-ending adventure.
Yes.
Every day I learn something new. Even our industry, it's really exciting. I love it. But later, after being in this thing on the W2 side, I got more exposure to colleagues like yourself as to what their stories were, what their adventure was, and there's a lot of brave individuals in our world that you can learn from set by secondhand experiences.
Yeah.
And I think from when I came in to where we're at now, with how much has changed with a lot of companies abolishing non-competes HD Ships, shout out to HD Ships, and the team over there for creating a innovative way that aligns with its market, and we are their market, that
Yeah.
that's really important for companies to adapt and overcome with how the market shifts and how the world changes, and to ensure that their people are happy and that their company continues to grow or even just at least be successful. So, I mean, it's really important for us to continue to network and learn from each other. And LinkedIn's a great supporting cast for that. And through LinkedIn, I think that the exposure to how every company operates has really exploded in the past 5 years. I was talking to somebody who's been in the industry for 23 years the other day, and I asked him specifically kind of the same question. I said, "Hey, brother, you know, 5 years ago, we didn't hear anything about agents. And maybe 2, 3 years ago, the thing just blew up out of nowhere. You see it everywhere, especially on a platform like LinkedIn." And his response, in all fairness, was that it wasn't anything special. Nothing changed. It was always there and it was always an option. It's the simple fact that the network has become so strong and tight
Hmm.
in our industry that it's hard to keep a secret now.
Yeah.
And
Trust
before,
drives this whole thing too.
that's right, brother. You said it. That's a big word. And before, most W-2 companies weren't exposing their salespeople to what that role could look like, and for good reason, because they wanted to keep that success on their side. So
Yeah.
it's uh it's really important to understand where to begin and to not get ahead of yourself a little too soon, I feel. So if you can learn from somebody who's been in the industry and you can trust, to start out, regardless of if it's agent or W2, I would start there.
That's that's incredible, man. Yeah. LinkedIn is LinkedIn is an interesting beast. Um Shoot, when I started this podcast, I remember the detractors, like individuals I thought were close to me and had my best interests in mind, complete detractors. And I've been doing this, not podcasting, but I've been working with agents for over 5 years now. And I saw something in this little segment right here in developing a podcast, talking to these people. And those detractors didn't see it. And I'm not saying I did anything special, but point being is when you see something others don't let anybody tell you no. Just go do it in any facet of your life. Go do it. Anybody who tells you no, flick them right in the forehead right there and continue on. All right, buddy. I got one here for you.
Let's have it.
New customer lockdown.
Word on the street is you've landed a couple new customers lately. What route do you go when you're, you know, going after new customers? How do you land them? What's the secret JB sauce?
That'll cost you. That's a lot. We'll, make sure you guys like and subscribe.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, brother. I mean, landing customers is what we do. You know what I mean? Especially on the W-2 side, like we talked about earlier, sometimes the stuff slows down. And when it slows down or things shift and change and you no longer fit the need of what a customer like what their need is, which happens, you got to find, you know, your niche somewhere else. So adjusting and overcoming in the marketplace is really important. And sometimes that looks like going and get you a new customer. We had recently onboarded a few new customers, that wanted to work with, me specifically. And I got lucky enough to have some great customers of mine that I've worked with for years, throughout my name as a referral. Um, that was one specific customer that we got in with, and they have a very, very Loctite, operation. So I
Mhm.
felt very lucky to be in there with them, but, it's not easy freight. Sometimes these shippers, they have um, really tough, operations to even get aligned with when you don't have it or, you can't press the easy button and just do it as it's just some regular easy shipment. There's a lot of variables that need to be considered, um, and that's that's the most important thing I think is to figure out what your prospect or your customer's needs are, how they really see the marketplace, how they really see you,
Mhm.
how they adapt and overcome when market trends affect them specifically, because that's also something really important to think about when you're going and trying to get Amazon's business or whatever. Don't do that. Don't do it. uh you know you got to figure out where their pain points are. You got to figure out what their challenges.
Boom. Yep.
You got to figure out what they value. What do you value in your freight partner? What do you value in your trucker, ABC company, and then go from there. Sometimes you're not going to be that fit, and that's okay. But you gotta learn from them to figure that out. And you can't just look at a company and be like, I can move their freight. You'd be surprised. Um, so for us, it just looks like aligning in a lot of aspects. You got to really take a fine tooth comb to their operation and figure out where you would even fit in. If you're just some spot quote broker, that's okay. That's all right. Anheuser-Busch will put you on there real quick. But, some of these other guys that have a really tight operation, you gotta be smart.
Yeah. Dude, that's such a great way to put it. And you got to remember too, like as you're cold calling for the younger brokers out there, as you're cold calling, stop viewing yourself through this lens of I'm annoying somebody. Stop viewing yourself through the lens of I'm just doing this because I have to do this because this is the only way I get business. You are selling a solution. These people need you, and you need to remember that. And as the great Ryan Nolan says, every great relationship starts with one of those annoying cold calls. Shout out Ryan. It's so important to remember. And as you grow and you develop a niche, maybe your first couple customers are those low hanging fruit that, anybody can get in with and it's tough. And then finally you land that customer that's very specific and you start learning the ins and outs. Now, the next time you call a customer in that niche, you know exactly what you're talking about. Focus on that. One day at a time, baby.
That's a
All
great
right,
point.
JB, let's wrap it up with this
Freight Agent Insider Tips for Success.
for us, baby.
Hey, that's a good one, I like that. Well, I think, to go off of what you said as well is, on that, don't act like you're annoying anybody with your cold call. At the end of the day, we're all people. That decision maker who oversees a $1 trillion company, they're still a person. At the end of the day, they may come off brash at first, but if you can find a way to connect or make them laugh, I guarantee they'll call you back. So always make sure that you understand that this is a people industry, and that if you're going to do right and work and move with integrity, you're already winning. You know what I mean? Like, you should approach every cold call with that. Like, hey, I'm winning life, customer. Why not, allow me to rub some of this magic off on your supply chain? Because I know what
Yeah.
I'm.
Yeah.
You approach it that way. Insider tip, I would just say focus on how the market shifts. And I don't mean the money, I mean how customers are moving, how companies are moving. Figure out how these larger corporations that are truly pushing waves in markets, how everybody else is going to be affected. You get these bigger companies that have a lot more buying power. They've got a lot of brokerage partners, asset-based partners. How they operate and move through this next season is going to affect every smaller company around them and in their same market. So understanding that and seeing the trend before it affects everybody and getting ahead of it and knowing where to call out with those specific companies that are going to be affected, it'll take you really far, extremely far, at
Who
least in
would
my.
have who would have thought that the W2 guy that comes on here drop more bombs, drop more truth than anybody who's come on? That's incredible, man. And just one last thing, just to piggyback off of that, JB. Like you said, these shippers, there's the guy, the gal running the multi-million dollar, billion-dollar company. They're just people. Those individuals you're working with. Just a quick example of that. one of our previous guests said one of those individuals watched this show, liked their personality so much that they are now moving their freight. People are always watching. People are always listening. Showcase yourself. That's how you set yourself apart. Let your
That's right.
personality do the talking.
That's right. I mean, one of the biggest things you can do to make sure that you're successful in any aspect of your life is to make sure that you've got an attitude worth catching.
Bombs. Dropping the truth bombs. Jacob Backus, everybody. All right, that's all for today. Remember, 9 a.m. Central every Monday. We've got another episode. This was a lot of fun. It was great connecting with you again, man. This
I'm
was
just
a
happy
ton
to
of
be
fun.
here, brother. It's great to see your lovely face. And I know you called me a stud earlier, and I appreciate that, but we all know who the real stud was.
You all heard it here first. That's the truth. More truth bombs. All right, everybody. Thanks for stopping in. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for watching the Freight Agent Insider Podcast. Like us and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, and LinkedIn